agent. See, that's something that everyone's sort of forgetting, and I forget it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Strome is a restricted free agent with arbitration rights, correct? So if the Rangers take him to arbitration, or Strome takes the Rangers to arbitration, the longest the term is going to be is 2 years.
Yeah.
So why would you not want to bring him back for the next 2 years? I mean, unless and I'm not completely against trading him. After saying all this about him, if the Rangers are completely blown away by a package where it's like, a first round pick and a stud prospect, I think you have to look at it. I don't think you just have to say he's untouchable, because, we do have a lot of young prospects in the pipeline. You may eventually like to see Hedl playing with Panarin, or, obviously you can get Zibanejad playing with Panarin and whatnot. So I don't think that Strome is untouchable. But as far as re-signing him, you can get him to that short-term deal. It doesn't have to be a long-term deal. If you could bring him back for, $4 million for 2 years, how could you not want to do that? I mean, for how well he's played, he's only 26 years old. He has great chemistry with Panarin. So, the thought of, well, we have to absolutely trade him because the only reason he scores is because he's on a line with Panarin is ridiculous.
Look, the team is everybody better. I've said this all the time. Buckle in, because this team, obviously for us as fans, is making it tough as far as, their inconsistency. That's one thing. The team has already basically said that they want to make the playoffs this year, okay? And if they're in the pack come spring, it's going to make it very hard for Gorton to make any of these types of decisions, especially if a guy like Strome is still putting up the points. There's a lot of variables that still have to stay in place in a long NHL season. Health is one of them. The team, I've said this before, has still not really faced any type of serious injury bug. Mika's gone down, Lemieux's down right now, and we lost Stahl for a few games. That's it. So, and this team, like I said, has kind of battled through that, and they're staying in the pack here, and it all depends on where they're at come the end of February, heading into March. Because if what we're seeing in these last 5 games, they've still got a lot of issues. I want to get into some of the shots on goal here with you too, KD. They've still got some issues, obviously. But this is all part of the rebuild. But if they start gelling here, if they wrap the year up with a win in Edmonton tomorrow night, that's pretty good coming back, going into the new year. And if this team starts gelling and Q finally starts getting his lines consistent and the chemistry starts hanging in there, we haven't even touched on Hank and Georgie Boy here in terms of how they've been playing the last couple of games. But if they're in a situation with their top 6 guys, no matter what DQ does with them, whether he has to move Strome up on this line and have his back and so on and so forth. I mean, if it's rolling and they're scoring, it's all good. And then you sit back, and if a guy like Strome, because of his age, and I'm sure the teammates are going to have a lot of impact on that too, whether or not they want to lose a guy like that. I would think, KD, that the only way this decision gets made easy for anybody from organization down to the fan base is that if the Rangers go into a tailspin, or if Strome just totally drops off the score sheet altogether. I don't think the kid, that's in his makeup. I think he's a good, smart hockey player, and he does do very well with his the advantages and the opportunities that he gets, especially, like I said, the way he's been proving that by playing with a guy like Panarin. He's being productive with it. And any fan that knocks any kind of player that's for his point production, no matter who he's playing with, is absolutely ridiculous. It's just a terrible way to look at things. You either like the guy, you don't like the guy. Too bad. But he's wearing a Rangers sweater. Get behind this guy, and if he's putting points up, no matter who's on his line, he's helping the team. And collectively as a unit, that's what this is all about. As far as your teammates up and down, and what this organization has in front of it. So it's positive. So everybody's kind of stay on the positive thing. But that's where my take is with Strome. I got no problems with the guy. Everybody goes through his ups and downs. You've said it. It's on the paper, man, as far as productivity and the way he's adapted, playing, for this organization, and no matter who's on his line. So I think it's all good stuff, and I think it can only get better. And because I just don't think a guy like Strome is going to drop off the score sheet because the fact that he's taking advantage of playing with quality guys, currently on his team, like you just pointed out.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue is even if the team does sort of just go into a tailspin and maybe it's time to sell at the trade deadline. I think with Strome being the restricted free agent, I think that the Rangers should lean towards probably keeping him. Again, it's not like he's an unrestricted free agent. There's going to be like a bidding war for him at the end of the year. Maybe you have to give him a 6 or 7 year deal. Again, you can go to arbitration and get a 1 or 2 year deal at probably a lower rate, obviously, than he would if he was a UFA. So, there's a lot of positives to keeping him around. You can the next couple of years where he has the chemistry with Panarin at a lower rate and not a long-term contract. To me, the bigger decision to be made is on Kreider because he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And, he's going to be looking for that long-term contract, I would assume. I mean, he saw Hayes get a 7-year deal from the Flyers last offseason. So I assume he's going to be looking for a similar deal, where, I would think I'd be more apt to trade him at the deadline because he's looking for that long-term deal. And how that probably doesn't make sense for the Rangers long term. If Kreider is willing to sign a 3-year deal, 3 or 4 year deal, I'm in for keeping him around as well. But I think for me, if I'm looking up and down the roster and a way to maybe bring in some more prospects or picks, because I think that the Rangers do need to bolster some of their forward prospects. I think they need to add a little bit more there. I think defensively they're all right. They got a lot going on. They sort of have like an embarrassment of riches as far as defensive prospects go. But, as far as the forwards, I need to see a little bit more. And I think Kreider could be that guy. I think he's playing a little bit better now. He's scoring some goals. He went through a little bit of a dry spot. I think he's sort of going through what Zuccarello went through last year, where he was having a difficult time with, his name being in trade rumors, and maybe the organization had a talk with Kreider the way they did with Zuccarello last year, and maybe he could sort of just put it behind him and just play hockey. Now, I saw something the other day that maybe Colorado is interested in Kreider, so I wouldn't mind getting some picks and some prospects for him, if he's looking for that long-term deal. Which, look, if you give him a 7-year deal, that the 5th, 6th, 7th year of those deals always end up being a nightmare. So he's the guy I'd be looking to move ahead of Strome, again, because of their status as free agents, the restricted versus unrestricted.
Yeah, I think CK's in a good situation. I think you nailed it. He's just got to play hockey. That's all he's got to do, because one way or the other, I think you're right too. I don't think the Rangers would give him any more than a 2 or 3 year extension. And if he does want to go somewhere else, then good for him. Or not that he wants to, but if it does work out that he does get something in terms of a Hayes deal or whatever, that's good for him either way. And the Rangers will certainly get something back in return for him. CK's just got to, consistently, he's just got to put his points up. I think like I said, the detriment to his game is maybe just, some of his decision makings during the game sometimes, staying out of the box. But, he's a feisty player. He's not. I don't think he's anybody that really kind of burns a team. I think for him, with all his experience, his playoff experience, he's going to be okay for himself personally, financially, and one way or the other, whether he stays with the Rangers or the Rangers are able to unload him and get a return, it's going to work out for the organization and him together. He's just in a kind of really good spot. So I know that guy's lacing the skates every night, and he pours it out in the ice every night, and he's doing it for himself and during the team. And I think he's a good professional. And CK is going to be okay one way or the other. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, as far as if it was Strome or Kreider, I'm leaning towards hanging on to Strome and seeing what we can do with Kreider just in terms of getting return for him. And I think they're just in a different situation, and I think they're also two different types of players for me too. And I think Kreider's trade value is going to be a little higher to other teams than, say, Strome would be. So I think, again, I'm being a little repetitive here, but I think it's a good situation when it comes to Kreider for the Rangers and for him personally. So it's all good stuff. Real quick, KD, just looking at the, wrapping up the year 2019. I mean, what can you say about Panarin, man? 51 points. He's just been, as advertised, money in the bank. We just went in length about Strome there, and Mika's got 30 points, even with missing the games there, 15 goals himself. Tony D, man, you brought him up before, 28 points for the team, and then Kreider with 24 points as far as the top five in team leaders here. Touching on the defense there as well, a guy like Tony D and Fox, you can just see it in them. It's you said it, man. As far as talent, it's there. It's not a perfect system. We still don't know what the system is, but I think with the guys that we have, long term it looks really, really good. As far as once they figure it out and they get more experience here. Because I just wanted to touch on some of the defensive aspects of these last 5 games here. Shots on goal was something that we were talking about too, as far as joking around about the system, letting other teams shoot as many pucks as they can at Georgie and Hank and see where we can get out of it. Toronto game, we gave up 40 shots. A little better against Anaheim in the win, only 20 shots on goal. Gave up 30 shots on goal against Philly. And then the Canes got 42 shots on us, and the Leafs, which is expected. They put another 48 shots on Georgiev the other night. As far as us, our shots 422. We had 41 against the Ducks. Pretty rare for us to getting up there. 35 against Philly. Another low 24 against the Canes, and then 38 against Toronto the other night. So defensively, it's still kind of the same kind of situation, just in terms of getting in and out of it. And then Hank had 2 wins and a loss during the 5, and Georgie went 1-1. Just get a little summation there of where you think they are in terms defensively and goaltending these last 5 games since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, it's the same issues. I mean, it's just bleeding shots. It's, like you said, there's 40-plus shots a night here. And unfortunately, the sort of anomaly there was that Anaheim game where we had 42 shots on goal, and only gave up 20. If they could somehow sort of bottle that, every night.
That Ducks team was a very, very tired Ducks team too, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, agreed. But, if they could somehow look at that and say, well, what were we doing right defensively in this game? And look, maybe it is just that the Ducks were tired and undermanned, and we just took advantage of that. But I think that look, if they haven't done it already, I don't know when they're going to figure out that they need to change up what they're doing defensively, because you can't win on a consistent basis, because you saw it. I think when they went out west and then came back, Lundqvist and Georgiev really weren't at the top of their games, and that's when they went into a little bit of a losing streak there, where they lost the 4 of 5 and 5 of 7, because Lundqvist and Georgiev weren't they weren't playing terribly, but they just weren't playing at the top of their game, which when you're giving up 40 plus shots a night, your goaltender needs to be. And for the last couple of games, they're back to that sort of talent stepping up there, where they're at the top of their game and they're winning again. It's not because they're playing that much better defensively. It's because Georgiev and Lundqvist are standing on their heads again.
Yep.
I think that they really do need to look at, and again, like you mentioned before, we've discussed it, individually, you look at the defensemen and they're all playing pretty well for the most part. I mean, me, I have issues with Stahl, but Hayek is out. So, what are you going to do there? Unless they decide to move Brendan Smith down to play defense, which I think is probably their best option as far as solidifying a little bit on the defense. But I don't know if that matters. Again, if they're going to sort of give up the blue line as they usually do and not step up and allow the team to come in with speed and chase, I mean, it doesn't matter who's playing defense, because you have a guy like Trouba who's been a solid blue liner his entire career with Winnipeg. And then he's going through some struggles here. I think he's been playing better of late since he's been put back with Shea. But, you look at, up and down, whether it's the forwards and them barely having a forecheck or sort of clogging the neutral zone, or the defenseman backing off of the blue line. A lot of times we do just point to the defenseman, but, the forwards really haven't been playing well either. And, that's just to go back to Strome a bit. That's a lot of the criticism that I'm seeing some Ranger fans have, is that he's not playing well defensively. I don't know how you could point to him individually as not playing well defensively. The entire team isn't playing well defensively.
Yep.
Maybe if there was a better system in place, Strome would look a little bit better defensively. So, I don't know how you could just point to him and say, well, he doesn't know how to play defense. are you pointing at Buchnevich and saying he doesn't know how to play defense either? Because he's much worse defensively than Strome. So, defensively, it really is a